We got some big fight announcements earlier today. Three main events, big main events that Dana White just announced earlier today. So, Cory Sandhagen versus Umar Nurmagomedov, Max Holloway versus the Korean Zombie, as well as Ciryl Gane versus Serghei Spivac, all announced as main events of fight nights. As well as a few other fights that have been announced. So we're going to go over those today in this video. Look at this, two uploads back to back. Look at me, doing great stuff. Get around it. But starting off with Cory Sandhagen versus Umar Nurmagomedov has been announced for UFC Nashville Fight Night main event on August 5th. A really good fight here in the bantamweight division, high level fight and a big step up for Umar Nurmagomedov. It's going to really test where he's at with all of his skills, with his grappling and with his striking. Obviously, Cory Sandhagen's one of the best fighters in the division, one of the best strikers, and also has shown much improved grappling in his recent fights since his loss to Aljamain Sterling. With Umar, though, it's kind of hard to gauge where he's at. Obviously, trains with that team with Islam and Khabib, but hasn't really fought the caliber of competition for us to confidently say he's ready for a Cory Sandhagen. Obviously, you can look at his fights, very dominant, coming off a KO of Ioni Barcelos in January on the first card of the year, got a vicious KO in the first round. But apart from that, he's fought Nate Maness, Brian Kelleher. Like, these aren't elite competition. These aren't crazy wins to have on your resume. But then you look at a Cory Sandhagen and you're seeing Marlon Vera, Song Yadong, TJ Dillashaw in a split decision loss, which should have gone his way. A really competitive fight with Peter Yan. Like, these are really good fights. Like, KOing Marlon Moraes. These are much better opponents to have on your resume. And Cory Sandhagen is a proven top five fighter and looking like one of the best in the world at the moment. So I'm actually going to pick him to win this fight as an early lean. I just don't think we've seen enough from Umar, and I think Sandhagen is just so good. Like, he's gotten so much better since he lost to Sterling that by that first round submission back in 2020. But really, when you look at that fight, it was just like he got swarmed, he got pressured back, and he got his back taken. It was a lapse of judgment. It was an error. But since then, he hasn't shown any weaknesses in those grappling exchanges. Offensively wrestled with success against Marlon Vera, dominated that fight. Marlon Vera's obviously got a fight booked as well, which I talked about yesterday. But Umar Nurmagomedov, obviously, the name would suggest dominant Dagestani grappler, which he does have, but he's also one of the best strikers out of the lot, out of that Dagestani bunch. He's got a really good striking base, kind of like Zabit. Shown power in his hands with that last KO, shown the submission abilities. He submitted Brian Kelleher, and he's shown that ground control and dominance against Nate Maness. But these opponents just aren't the ones that you're going to want to be like, yeah, this is a guy, he took down him, he submitted him, therefore he's going to beat Sandhagen. You can't use any of Umar's fights. This is my take on the fight. You can't, when you're picking this fight, anyone who's picking Umar, don't lie to yourself. You're picking because his name is Umar Nurmagomedov. You're not picking him because of what you've seen so far, because what we've seen so far is him being a can crusher and dominating not quality opposition. No disrespect to Barcelos, he's a good fighter, but none of these guys are anywhere close to top 15 level. Barcelos is a bit closer, but still, these aren't fighters like Sandhagen, whose last like 7 fights have been in the top 15. Like, his record is so impressive. Like, you got Song, um, Cheeto, Yan, Dillashaw, Sterling, um, Edgar as well, Moraes. Like, so many names there. Seven names off the top of my head, and he's got more than that as well. Seven, but just 7 names off the top of my head that have been in the top 5 or top 10 in their career. None of those guys were not in the top 10 when he fought them. I believe I'm very confident in saying that. Maybe Edgar was outside the top 15 when he got that flying near KO, but apart from that, all of his opponents have been really highly ranked. Yan for an interim title, he's got that experience. 5 rounds, went 5 rounds against Yan, went 5 rounds against Cheetah, scheduled for 5 against Song, went to the fourth and got that win from the elbow TKO. So Sandhagen's got so much more high level experience. So as I said, if you're picking Umar, you're picking him based off the fact that you believe he's going to be a dominant force and no one's going to be able to stop his takedowns, or no one's going to be a better striker than him just because his name is Nurmagomedov. Like, if this was anyone else, like, we were not saying with like Adrian Yanez, we weren't saying he's going to steamroll Rob Font. We weren't saying with any of these guys, these up and comers. Like, same with Hamzat against Burns. It's the same thing. He shows dominance and he's proved to be very high level and compete and win against Gilbert Burns by decision. But it was a fucking close fight. Like, that was a really competitive fight, 2-1. The third was razor close. First for Hamzat, second for Burns. He got knocked down in that fight, and you just can't pick a fight, and you can't say I'm picking Umar with confidence. If anyone picks Umar with confidence, you know something that I don't. You are in the gym at AKA with Umar Nurmagomedov, and you've seen something. Because if you're just an outside guy picking Umar, you're basically picking him from. You're taking the word of DC and of Islam and Khabib and these guys saying he's so good, which I do believe. I think Umar Nurmagomedov will probably win a belt one day, or fight for a belt one day, or at least make the top five. He's got a very high ceiling in the sport, but he's 27 years of age. Like, Cory Sandhagen is a young guy as well. I think he's like 29 or 30. Like, these guys are 31, I think, but these guys are both young. But Cory Sandhagen has so much more experience in his career. Umar, he's 16-0, so he's got experience outside the UFC, but no huge names. Like, no guys who you look at them and can even remotely compare them to to Sandhagen. My bad. Um, Even stylistically, like striking wise, not even close. There's no one like him that Umar's fought. Even grappling wise, it's even hard to find me a name of an opponent of Umar Nurmagomedov that you can even say is a better grappler than Sandhagen, or a better kicker or boxer, or any singular aspect of MMA. Sandhagen is leaps and bounds ahead of any of Umar's fights. So I'm picking Sandhagen based off what we've seen. I don't like picking fights based off just hoping and just assuming. That I don't think that's a way to pick fights, in my opinion, because otherwise you don't have a real reason. If I came to you and said, "Guys, I'm picking Umar and Magomedov," I can't even talk to you about my reasons. I'm picking Sandhagen, and I'm telling you guys I'm going to pick Sandhagen, not with high confidence either. I'm just saying I'm picking Sandhagen because I've seen him at the top level and because he's done so much more in the sport than Umar. If I'm saying to you guys, I turn on this camera and I say I'm picking Umar Nurmagomedov to win dominantly because what? There's no reason in his fighting style. I'm not saying I'm picking Umar Nurmagomedov because he KO'd Raoni Barcelos, and Cory Sandhagen wouldn't do that. Raoni Barcelos would smoke Cory Sandhagen or KO him or win a decision. I'm not saying Brian Kelleher would take down and out grapple Cory Sandhagen. Like, you can't say this based off what you've seen with Umar. So by no means do I think he's a fraud or anything or not good. I think he's a fucking good fighter. But 5 rounds as well. I've no doubt Umar's conditioning is elite. That he trains with Khabib and them. They all train for 5 rounders anyway. That's their style. But just the experience, knowing what it's going to happen when it goes into that third and fourth and fifth round, which Umar doesn't see very often. He hasn't seen a fourth and fifth. And also when he's getting tested back, when he's getting jabbed up on the feet and teeped at range and kicked to the legs and throwing flying knees at him, and Cory Sandhagen's moving around and stuffing takedowns. He doesn't have the ability, or I'm not saying he doesn't have the ability, but he doesn't have the experience of being able to um, deal with that adversity. So the adversity that Sandhagen's faced, obviously having lost, I actually think the undefeatedness of Umar Nurmagomedov is not as much of an advantage or reason to pick him as you may believe. I don't think, because same with Hamzat, undefeated and still is, but he had to dig deep in that fight. So will Umar have that same? Will he be cut from that same cloth? Maybe, but right now I just can't pick Umar based off what we've seen, which just isn't much. Well, it just isn't. We haven't seen enough from him for me to pick him. If he beats Sandhagen, finishes even. But if he beats Sandhagen by decision, split, I don't care. Even even if it's robbery, even if we go out from that fight saying, "Fuck, Cory Sandhagen won that fight," And the judges probably going to be fucking Sal D'Amato and Chris Lee. Got that wrong. They probably scored it fucking 5-0 for Umar when it was 3-2 for Sandhagen, like fucking Vera fight. But if we come out of that and say, geez, that was a really close fight, I reckon Sandhagen won, the judges gave it to Umar, then Umar's passed the test. Umar, to pass the test, does not have to start Sandhagen or to run through him and submit him in the first. That's not what has to happen here. He just has to. This fight is it's made very deliberately to show where he's at, and I think it will do that. And I think he's going to lose a decision. I think Cory Sandhagen is going to outclass him. I think Umar is going to get the better of the first round, maybe even the second round as well. He's going to be playing his game, getting the takedowns, not holding Sandhagen down dominantly or getting dominant positions like the back. I think Sandhagen's going to be landing a bit better on the feet. Umar's going to have that element of kind of surprise. He's going to be catching him a bit early while Sandhagen makes his reads. We know Sandhagen is known for making the reads and picking the volume up as the fight goes on, like a Gane and a Vera as well. But even in the offensive wrestling as well of Sandhagen, we've just seen so much defensive, offensive wrestling. He's looked so much better in his recent fights, and it was a mental switch when he lost, which Umar hasn't had. Umar hasn't had to reflect on anything in his career and be like, where do I need to improve? Umar has made no deliberate, specific improvements in his game. He's just working to get better and to get to a belt. But I don't think this is gonna be the fight to get him there. I think he's gonna lose a decision, and I think we're gonna look at this fight and say probably should have been a Marlon Vera, or probably should have been a Rob Font or a Song Yadong or a Pedro Munoz or one of these other guys just to test first. Like O'Malley. Maybe it's going to look like the O'Malley fight and a close split. But being 5 rounds, I think we all know Jan versus O'Malley went to the fourth and fifth. Jan was going to piece him up and win that fight clearly 3-2 or 4-1 decision. But I just don't think we can confidently say that Umar's going to have that thing, and that's going to happen with Umar. So I think it's going to end up looking like one more, and he's going to go back, and because he's going to look impressive, but not win, he'll go back and he'll fight the loser or the winner of Font versus Song Yadong, which is 2 weeks later. So a big opportunity for both guys if they win to really stamp their name in the title picture. And if Umar wins, he's got a really good case, and if Sandhagen wins, likewise. But talked about this fight for a bit too long, so I'm going to move on. Picking Sandhagen by decision. But moving on, Max Holloway versus the Korean zombie Chan Sung Jung is official to be main eventing the UFC's return to Singapore on August 26th. It's a legends matchup in the featherweight division, and probably going to be the retirement of the Korean zombie, and I do not believe it is going to be a pretty retirement whatsoever. I'm picking Max Holloway by either 50-42 decision or a 4th or 5th round TKO, 3rd, 4th, or 5th round TKO due to a doctor stoppage or a volume of strikes that Holloway's going to put together and the ref's just going to have to step in. I think this is a really bad matchup for Zombie, and I don't see him anyway in this fight winning. He's not a better striker, he's not a better kicker, he's not a better boxer, he's not a better wrestler, he's not better at jiu-jitsu, he's not better at, he doesn't have better cardio, he doesn't have a better chin, he doesn't have better fight IQ. There's nothing. There's nothing for Zombie. Maybe he's got more power. Maybe. Maybe he's got more power, but everything, the speed, the volume, the accuracy, the cardio, the chin, all of it goes to Holloway. And I think he's going to dominate this fight, and it's going to be a sad retirement for the Korean Zombie. If I'm just going to say it right now, if Max Holloway is anything less than a -500 on the odds, I won't tell you to bet the house, but I can encourage you that that is a very good bet to make. And then a parlay as well on the betting lines, that would be an easy add to get some value on a parlay. So I'm picking Holloway to win dominantly. It's a really tough fight for Zombie, but it's better than nothing. It's better than getting fed to an up-and-comer or getting fed to a massive power puncher or someone who's going to start Zombie out cold. When we see this fight take place on August 26th in Singapore, we are not going to see the Korean Zombie be laid out cold on the canvas and be unresponsive for a minute, and the doctors are trying to wake him up, like with Ferguson and Chandler. That's not what we're going to see here. If we see a finish in this fight, it's going to be either a doctor stoppage at the end of the third or fourth. I don't think it'll be that bad by the first and second, but by the end of the third and fourth, we could see a doctor stoppage. If Holloway comes into this fight with the attitude of I'm putting a fucking significant strike record on this guy, and he treats it like the Cater fight and goes in there and is just putting 25 punch combinations together, then we could see that stoppage come a bit earlier. If he fights it like the Allen fight, we could see a more merciful 50-45 decision. I don't see Zombie winning rounds. Korean Zombie will not win rounds. That is one of the biggest locks of the year, in my opinion. Maybe I'll end up like Chael Son and picking Beneil Dariush like a fucking idiot. But I'm saying Holloway here is the biggest lock that I've seen this year. This fight as a main event as well, there's no bigger lock. Obviously, you had guys like Rosenstrike versus Almeida. Almeida was a huge lock. Um, there's been some big locks this year, but this takes the cake. I'm trying to rack my mind through all these main events that we've had this year, and none of them have been absolute blowouts, or none of them were seen to be absolute blowouts. This is the first main event this year where I believe the odds makers would be giving out money if they said anything less than a -5 or 600. If I'm the odds makers here and I'm not trying to lose money on free Holloway bets because there's no way Zombie wins, I'm putting these lines at a -700. And I know that sounds ridiculous as a main event of the number 2 versus the number 8 or 7 guy, but that's the reality of the situation. Volkanovski was a -700, and although I think Volk is better than Holloway, I think stylistically this is the same kind of fight. So I see Holloway in the first round, warming up, landing about 30 to 10 significant strikes, 30 to 15. Maybe Zombie lands a big one. Holloway does known to get cracked, but the chin is not gonna fail him in this fight. Zombie's not the most powerful guy at featherweight. Um, so we're gonna see. I can break this fight down before. This is when I come back to you on August 27th and I give my reaction to this card. I'm going to be describing exactly what I'm saying right now, I believe. First round, Holloway's going to come out, be landing the double jab crosses, going to the body, landing a few spinning kicks, landing the 1, 2, 3s as well. Some good shots, just kicking Zombie as well a bit. Not going to be too bad. We're going to be like, all right, this is good. Fans are going to be cheering Zombie, obviously, in Singapore. Second round, Holloway's going to pick up the volume. Um, Zombie's going to not have much for him. Anything he throws, he might catch Holloway with a big cross. Maybe once around for this fight, there'll be one moment of this could be a finish here for Zombie, or wow, the really good shot there. There's going to be one of those every round. I can say that Zombie will land big shots on Holloway because everyone lands big shots on Holloway. Every single person he fights lands shots on him. Yair did, Volk did, Allen landed a few. Just happens. Even Cater was landing big shots on him, even though he got put through a blender in that fight. So as continuing, second round's going to pick up the volume, have a big flurry of punches and elbows in the clinch, ripping the body, really digging into the body with those liver shots like we saw in the Cater fight. Maybe a 10-8 on one judge's scorecard, one or two judges' scorecards. Third round continues, just picked up where he left off. Holloway is got Zombie against the ropes, against the cage. Early in the third, there's going to be a stop the fight kind of moment. Zombie's going to swing back, show that he's still there. Continue get back to space, push his way back to space. He's going to be wobbling for a little bit. Holloway's not the most powerful guy, but the volume that he's going to land in this fight is going to put an effect on the Zombie. Damage is going to be really wearing on him towards the end of the third. Another big volume of punches, 10-8s across the board for the judges. They look at him in the corner, ask, do you want to continue? He says yes, gets a big cheer from the Singapore crowd. They love him over there. Does this with his hands, like, come on, guys, get around it. They all cheer. Goes out there for the fourth, again, beating another 10-8, really close to stopping it. Herb Dean or whoever's going to be the ref in this fight is going to be like really looking in there, stepping in, like thinking, do I stop this? Do I stop this? Fifth, I think he might get dropped with like a body shot. Like he's gonna dig in with a left to the body. Zombie's gonna like crunch over a little bit, fall to one knee, kind of get back up. Maybe a little bit of a grappling exchange. Holloway might get top half guard, land some ground and pound. Round's gonna end. Fifth round comes. They look at him in the corner again. They ask, "Do you really want to keep going? Will you keep going in this fight?" He says yes, goes back out there, and in the fifth, Holloway tones it down a little bit, just tunes him up with the jabs, gets those double jabs going, landing the hooks, landing some body shots, but just kind of cools off the output in the fifth and cruises to a unanimous 50-43 decision, maybe a 50-42 on a judge's scorecard, with the second, third, and fourth being 10-8s. And then the other two judges will have the third and fourth being 10-8s. So there you go. I've just given a fight breakdown of exactly how I think this is going to go. Once this is done, come back to this video, and if I'm right, I'm a genius, and if I'm remotely wrong, I'm still a genius. I'm kidding, but Holloway's going to dominate this fight. I don't think it needs to be said much. Rare for a top 10 matchup of two guys that are within 5 spots of each other in the rankings to be seen as such one-sided matchmaking, but that's what this is. It's going to be a sad retirement for the Queen Zombie, but I hope he goes out, has a good moment, has some respect with Holloway, gives a good post-fight speech, but he's going to lose this fight. So another main event done. Moving on to the third and final main event that's been announced. Ciryl Gane versus Serghei Spivac is official for the UFC's return to Paris, France on September 2nd. Also announced earlier today with these other two fights. A heavyweight top matchup. Ciryl Gane, the number 1 heavyweight in the world. Serghei Spivac, I believe, is the number 7 or 8 heavyweight in the world. And this is really going to test the grappling of Ciryl Gane. Obviously, in his last fight, we saw Jon Jones take him down easily and dominate and submit him in the first round, 2 minutes in, with that guillotine. Got him up against the cage and flattened him and just cranked his neck off. And Gane was forced to tap. Really showed no resistance in the grappling whatsoever there. And Spivac, by no means is he the same level of wrestler as Jon Jones, but the judo is for real. And this guy's got really good takedowns. And he's got an ability to submit you once you're on the ground as well. We saw it with Derek Lewis, got the arm triangle. Derek Lewis, again, is Derek Lewis, but he's shown dominance at heavyweight. And I think dominance at heavyweight is different to dominance at bantamweight, like I said with Umar before, when you're just can crushing. Derek Lewis, not a great fighter. Greg Hardy, horrible fighter. Who else? Augusto Sakai, not a good fighter. But at heavyweight, there's less grappling at heavyweight. So when you see a guy really start running through people with takedowns and ground and pounds, you start going, okay, there's something here. At bantamweight and at those lighter weight classes, it's all expected that you're good everywhere. But at heavyweight, half the guys get to the top and they're not even good in all areas. A lot of them just get there from being power punchers. So just like with Gelton Almeida as well, I think Spivak, the fat heavyweights are really easy to beat. Obviously, Ciryl Gane is not a fat heavyweight, but respectfully, he's got the takedown defensive one. He really just showed nothing in the grappling. Didn't stuff a single takedown from Jon Jones. Just got dragged down with the body lock and submitted. Francis Ngannou dumped him down, and Ngannou has never shot a takedown in his life. And got him down with trips and stuff many times. He got Gane down with trips. That's the biggest thing here. He got Gane down with throws. He got judo throws on Ciryl Gane. And who is the best judo artist in the heavyweight division? I'll let you guys. Rhetorical fucking question. It's Serghei. He's probably Jon Jones realistically, but in terms of at heavyweight, Jones has fought once at heavyweight. Out of all the guys there, Serghei Spivac is the guy that actually utilizes judo as a base and has shown the ability to use judo in MMA and get those throws, get those trips, take the opponents down like he did with Lewis dominantly. Took him down multiple times before submitting him. with the arm triangle, and he's a solid and he's a strong fighter as well. Gane, obviously on the feet, Gane tears him apart, as goes with many guys in the division. I think the only guy that Gane would not beat on the feet comfortably would be a Serghei Pavlovich. I think that's the only competitive fight for Gane on the feet. But I don't think it's going to matter a heap in this fight. I'm going to pick Serghei Spivac by a second round submission. Much closer fight though. This is not a guaranteed fight. I think these should be like plus 150 odds for Gane, minus 130 for Spivac. That's what I'm predicting these lines to be at. If Gane is a favourite, I would not be surprised, and nor would I tell you to hammer the line of a Serghei Spivac by submission. We could see a decision win for him here if Gane shows some jiu-jitsu defense. We could see a KO win from Gane and he lights him up on the feet and shows new and improved takedown defense. We could see that, but I don't think we will. I think Gane, the fact that he's still training in France at the MMA lab, or at the MMA factory or something, whichever one it is in France, gym that he's training with Fernando Lopez, it's not a good look for him. He was offered to train in Dagestan by Khabib. He was offered to train with John Jones, the guy who submitted him in 2 fucking minutes, and he said no. I think it's an ego thing for Gane, and I think it's a loyalty thing. Which, while loyalty is good, and it's great to see fighters be loyal to their gyms, unlike TJ Dillashaw, snake in the grass. But it's good to see fighters be loyal to their gyms, but to an extent. You can still have Fernando Lopez as your head coach. You can still use the MMA lab as your main gym. By no means am I saying abandon that gym forever, never go back there, never train there again, and move to Dagestan forever and become Ciryl Nurmagomedov or some shit like that. Like, that's not what you have to do. But use people's ideas. Like, you're being offered help from some of the best grapplers, probably one of the best grapplers and wrestlers in heavyweight division in John Jones, and then from one of the most dominant grapplers in the sport of all time in Khabib. You're being offered to train with a guy who has is widely regarded as the best fucking wrestler and the best pure grappler, well, not pure, but the best grappler with the takedowns, the ground and pound, the control time, um, in Khabib Nurmagomedov. You've been offered to train with these guys. And it's not like you're going to fight any of them. It's not like Khabib's training partners with like fucking Spivak or fucking Curtis Blades or I think Pavlovich might train at AKA. But it's not like these wrestlers are training with Khabib and they're setting you up for some sort of failure here. You're getting genuine offers from people who look in your game. And I'm not a fucking MMA fighter. I trained for about a year and a half. By no means am I claiming to be an expert in grappling or a judo specialist or a wrestling analyst or anything like that. Ciryl Gane would dominate me in the grappling department, pound for pound, skill for skill, regardless. I'm not saying otherwise. I'm just saying it's very easy, as with the most remote knowledge of the intricacies of the grappling in MMA. Like, Ciryl Gane is going to get taken down and thrown and judo thrown to the ground by Serghei Spivac, and I'm not going to know the names of those moves. I'm just going to say that. I'm not going to know the names of those moves, but I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. Because Ciryl Gane is a striker. He's a Muay Thai fighter, and that's the sport he should be in if he is not going to show the want and show the effort into improving his grappling. He said, um, coming into the John Jones fight before Francis Ngannou, he only trained when he was preparing for a fight, and so we're like, that's weird, but okay. And then after he lost to Francis, he's like, I'm in the gym every day. I'm in the gym every day. You're in the gym every day, fucking striking, you idiot. Why are you not grappling? He showed nothing against John Jones, and I'm not saying John Jones is not good. John Jones is the GOAT. He's elite. But the fact that he got, it wasn't even a takedown. He got just body locked and just John Jones just put his weight on him and just dragged him backwards. That's not even a wrestling move. He didn't even trip him. He just dragged him down and put his body weight on top of him, and Gane had no resistance. That's what happened. And Ngannou caught his kick and threw him through the octagon. Almost got John Jones hiding under there. Like, it's just not what you need to see. This is not good. I don't know how to say otherwise. Like, Gane, okay, maybe Gane's like, fuck, I've been dominated twice in a row in the grappling department. Maybe I should actually train wrestling when I'm fighting a judo specialist. Maybe he's smart like that. But I think Ciryl is, he loves his striking, and he's a pretty boy striker, but he doesn't want to, as John Jones said, he's not a guy to get gritty and down and dirty in the wrestling gyms on the mats, rolling tough rounds, hard rounds, getting tired in the grappling. He's fine to strike and just use his elite striking, which he has. As I said before, this stays on the feet, Gane all day, tearing him up. If you can tell me in this fight, if you're a time traveler, you come back to this video and comment, it's a left lane, you fucking dickhead. Um, Gane's gonna defend all his takedowns. He's been working behind the scenes, and he's got really good takedown defense. This is gonna be a striking matchup. Then Gane's gonna absolutely piece him up, and I would tell you to hammer the line on Gane by either a TKO or decision. I would tell you to absolutely hammer that one, probably by a TKO in the first 3 rounds. But that's not going to happen. And there's no time traveler to tell me that Ciryl Gane is not going to defend takedowns. Or that he's going to defend takedowns. It's not going to happen. Maybe he'll defend one or two. But I really just don't see the way that he's been looking and the attitude that he's shown to his improvements in the MMA game. The MMA game, not the Muay Thai game. We all know he's good at that. He's the best striker in heavyweight history. But in the MMA game and in the wrestling and the grappling departments, he has not shown the effort or the want or the remote capability to even try and improve in those areas. So I'm picking Serghei Spivac to submit him inside 3 rounds. And the Paris crowd is not going to be happy. But Gane's going to be waving the white flag and he's going to tap out in the octagon like he did against John. So that's my thoughts on that fight. Those are the three main ones, but we've just got a few other minor ones. Obviously, made the video yesterday, so there's not a heap of ones to go through. But um, Waldo Cortes Acosta versus Lukasz Brzeski, August 26th. That's on the Holloway versus Zombie card. And this one's not going to be a beating like the main event. I'm picking Cortes Acosta to win a decision. I think the names that he's fought inside the octagon more skilled than a Brzeski's. Um, Brzeski got dominated, knocked down, sparked, and then almost knocked out, but recovered to a decision against Carl Williams. Carl Williams recently had a very close, just boring, lackluster fight with Chase Sherman. Waldo Cortes Acosta beat Chase Sherman relatively easily. Um, MMA math doesn't really work out there. Um it's not like a 1 + 1 = 2. It's more of a 1.33 plus 0.67 = 2. There's not if that make I don't know what I'm saying there. What am I saying? You know what I'm trying to say though, like it's not a really good MMA math to use, but I just think Cortes Acosta coming off the first loss of his career to Marcos Rogerio de Lima, I think he's going to be a bit more going to be motivated to really get back in there. He was like somewhat of a prospect. We all knew he wasn't that good. Um, More very limited game, but so does Brzeski. Really showed nothing in the Williams fight, so I think he's going to lose the decision. Moving on, Cody Brundage versus Sedriques Dumass, June 24th. That's next week in Jacksonville. That's the Ilya Topuria versus Josh Emmett card. And I'm going to pick Cody Brundage to win. If you look at his recent losses, Rodolfo Vieira, Mikhail Olajaychik, not bad losses to have whatsoever. Both of those guys would absolutely smoke Sedriques the Dumass. That's what his name is. Lost to Josh Fremd, who is now booked to fight Jamie Pickett. That should tell you all you need to know. Josh Fremd is not a good fighter. He's not an elite fighter, and he beats Sedriques Dumass easily. But he's 7-1. He was undefeated coming into the UFC. Undefeated means jack shit. He's fought no one good. He'll lose this fight. By a I don't really know what way. Probably a decision. Zhalgas Zhumagulov versus Joshua Van. Again next week, June 24th. I'll go with Zhalgas. Had 2 fights cancelled recently. It's tough on him. Really motivated to get a win back. Lost the weird split decision to Charles Johnson, and I think he's really going to be motivated, especially having these fights cancelled. That's 2 in a row now. He was scheduled to fight on UFC 288 and then scheduled to fight again this week. So within a month, that's 2 fights cancelled. and I think he's really going to be looking to get a win here against Joshua Van, and I think he will by decision. Moving on, Sean Woodson versus Steve Garcia. I'm going to be going with Woodson. This is for August 5th, so that Nashville card. Woodson's just um he's got some good wins, good fights, good wins on his resume. So does Garcia, but Woodson, you look at his resume: Terrence McKinney, Kyle Bochniak, Yusuf Zalal, and his loss in the UFC was to Julian Erosa, so not a bad fighter. Steve Garcia's beat Charlie Nordenbeke and Chase Hooper, good fighters. I just think Sean Woodson's a bit more well-rounded and a bit better. Um, so again, that's August 5th. So that's it. Not too many extra fight announcements. Obviously since the video yesterday, go check that out if you haven't. But again, just recapping, Sandhagen Umar going Sandhagen by decision, and I think we're going to really see the levels of those top 5 fighters in the bantamweight division. If this is not the same situation as in heavyweight or as in light heavyweight or middleweight or one of these more shallow divisions, this is a competitive division where the gap from 4 to 2 or from 5 to 1 is so big for the most part. Vero against Sandhagen's all you need to look at. Vero is sparking people and then got dominated by Sandhagen. But I've talked about that fight. Holloway over Zombie, absolute beating waiting to happen. Zombie's going to get 50-43 and retire in Singapore in very sad fashion, but he will retire. And then Gane versus Spivac. Spivac should win by submission if Ciryl Gane has not improved his grappling. If he has, and if he knows how to defend takedowns, he will outstrike and dominate Spivac on the feet to a TKO. But that's going to be it for today's video. Had to just make this one as well. Didn't want to wait too much longer. The heat of the fight announcements was too hot for me to ignore today. So let me know what you think of these fights in the comments below. Do you agree with my picks? If not, let me know why. Always happy to read your guys' advice and or picks and your thoughts on the matchups as well. I'm no expert here. I'm just an MMA fan, and this is what I see in these fights. So let me know. I'm really excited for these fights. I'm sure you guys are as well. But let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video, which will probably be a brief recap of Sayuki and Silva and Cannonier versus Vittori this weekend for that card. You will see Vegas 75. See you in the next one. Peace.